Hello, dear friends. Today, in the environment science, we are going to study the unit number 1, that is basic of environmental science. Here, the first is introduction to the environmental science. First of all, let's see the definition of it. It is the interdisciplinary study of the environment with the interaction with between the biological, chemical, and physical components of the nature or the natural world and how the humans influences these processes. Now, basically, it is the interaction between the living, non-living things with the environment. It is called as the environment. It is the main definition for the environmental science. Now, moving towards the type of its moving towards its type, that is the types of environmental science. There are two types. First is the natural environment, and the second one is man-made environment. In the natural environment, it includes all living and non-living things occurring in the nature, like forest, oceans, and mountains. And the man-made environment, it refers to the species created by the human structures or human interactions, like cities, buildings, and infrastructures, which are made by the human. So it is called as the man-made environment. Now there are main classifications of this. There are the classification of this environmental science, which is mainly classified into biotic environment and abiotic environment, or it is also the interdependence, dynamic nature, and and the complexities. Now the next one is components. The next one is the we are going to see the components and the principles of the environment. Now there are the components and principles of the environment. The first, see the components. As we all know, in the environment there are the atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, and biosphere. Biosphere is the middle portion of the atmosphere, lithosphere, and the hydrosphere, which is which shows the environment. It is the biosphere. Now the principle of the environment, the main principles are sustainability, conservation, and the biodiversity. And other than, there are 10 more principles of environment science. These are the list of environment science, or these are the principles for the environment science, 10 principles. And the three main principles are sustainability, conservation, and biodiversity. Then moving towards the next, that is the scope and the need for the environmental science. The scope of the environmental science is vast and focusing on pollution control, sustainable development, and resource management. In the pollution control, it is mainly study the air, water, and the soil pollution. Whereas in the sustainable development, we are balancing environmental health with the economic growth. In the resource management, we are managing the natural resources for the future generations. Now, the next, that is the need for the environmental science. Basically, this need for the environmental science, we all know that we are facing the global warming and the greenhouse effect gases, melting of polar ice. These are the serious issues that we are going through nowadays. So therefore, we need for the environmental science is there. It is to understand the climate change and the mitigate its effect, to reduce its effect, to protect biodiversity and the natural ecosystem, and lastly, to promote the sustainable practices for the industries and the agriculture. Next, that is the multidisciplinary nature of the environmental science. Environmental science is not actually depend on a particular area, but it is the responsibility of all the things that we are going, or it is the part of every subject. The environmental science is the part of every such subjects, such as biology, chemistry, geology, physics, sociology, ecology, history, and anthropology, archaeology, oceanology. So these are the various branches. It is the interdisciplinary study. Such as in biology, we are going to study the living organism. In chemistry, we are understanding the pollution and toxins. In geology, we are understanding the Earth's physical structure, whereas in physics, we understand the energy flow and the climate. The next that we are going to see is the environmental ethics. Now, the environmental ethics is a philosophical study of human relationships to the environment, focusing on the moral obligations humans have to protect and sustain nature. So it's a prior duty. And with this, there are some keynotes for this. It is the anthropocentric, ecocentric, and sustainable developments. So, in the anthropocentrism, human-centered approach is there, where human needs are prioritized. In the ecosystems, the nature-centered, it's actually a nature-centered, recognizing the intrinsic values of all life forms. In sustainable development, ethical responsibility of future generations. Now we are going towards the next, that is the that is the anthropocentrism. Uh, for example, if we are studying the anthropocentrism, then the building cities, we are building the cities and industries at the expense of wildlife. The next example that we can give from the ecocentrism, that is the preventing forest, national parks, and wildlife habitats for their own sake. Now, the next that we are going to study is the environmental education, in that the goals, objective, and principles. Now, what are the goals of the environmental education? The main goals of the environmental education is to develop an understanding of ecology, ecological systems, and the independence of living and non-living things, fostering altitudes, behaviors, and skills that encourage responsibility about environmental decision makings, encouraging action oriented programs that address environmental issues. Now, what will be the objectives? Objective will be to promote awareness about environmental challenges, to develop program solving skills for addressing environmental concern, to encourage individuals to adopt sustainable practices. So there are some principles which are involved in the environmental ethics: interdisciplinary approach, lifelong learning, action oriented, and the global perspective. Now, here there are some examples which are given, that is understanding, citizenship, responsibility, competence, and the awareness. These all are the responsibilities that we should take in the environmental ethics. Now, in this interdisciplinary approach, the drawing knowledge from the various fields like biology, geography, and sociology is important. In the lifelong learning, the environmental education must continue beyond the classroom. We should see the various ways how we can approach, or uh, how we can expand this environmental study. And the next one is the action oriented, that is the focus on the real world problem solving and the global perspective, in that we must encourage the thinking globally while acting locally. The next, that is the next topic that we are going to see here, is the formal and the non-formal environmental education. It is the type of, there are the types of environmental education. First is the formal environmental education, and the second one is the non-formal environmental education. Now let's see what is the formal environmental education. The structured education, the structured education delivered through the schools, colleges, and universities. It is basically a curricular or based, and it is typically having the practical and theory sessions, giving the knowledge of some practical aspects like lab experiments and the field trips. For example, the environmental studies as a subject in schools and field trips to the national parks. Now, the second one, it is the non-formal educational environmental education. It occurs outside the formal education system and includes community awareness programs, workshops, and media campaigns, focusing on the practical, action oriented learning through the community engagement. Now, the examples can be given: the community cleanup drive, environmental awareness campaign on the social media. The next, that is the environmental program. The next thing that we are going to study is the environmental programs. In this environmental program, these environmental programs are planned and structured initiatives aimed at addressing environmental issues through education, policy changes, and practical actions. Now, for example, we can say for the environmental program, first is the UN, that is United Nation Environmental Program, that is global initiatives to address climate change, biodiversity conservation, and pollution. The next that we can see is the National Green Corps, that is a program for young student in India aimed to environmental conservation. The next important thing is that what is the importance of environmental education? The environmental education is important, is very important topic, was is very important topic in students life and as well as in the social life also. So here are some points that include the importance of environmental education. The environmental protection, sustainable development, promotes responsible behavior, global citizenship. So these main four criteria for the importance of environmental education. There are participation, awareness, knowledge, attitude, skills. These are also the environmental education importance, or these are the areas which shows the environmental education. In environmental protection, it creates the awareness about the environment degradation and the equipment and the equip peoples with the knowledge to protect the natural resources. In sustainable development, we educate people on the importance of balancing economic growth with environmental sustainability. Again, we have to encourage the individuals and communities to adapt the eco-friendly practices in their daily lives, which promotes the responsible behavior. And lastly, the global citizenship, that is the fostered a sense of responsibility towards the global community and shares the environmental concern. Now the next topic, that is the environmental awareness. In this environmental awareness, it is the recognition and understanding the environmental issues like pollution, global warming, deforestation, and the next is the way to raise awareness. This is the most important thing that we should rise. It is the way to raise the awareness, that we the programs that we are including in the awareness about the environmental science, or about the environmental, is the social media, community, and the school initiatives. So the social mediums like platforms like Twitter, Instagrams are used to spread the awareness about the environmental issues. Next is the community program, where the grassroots movement that educate and encourage the public in environmental conservation efforts. Next is the school initiative. School conducts natural walk, tree plantation drives, and the eco clubs to foster the environmental responsibility. So these are some awareness program that we can learn, that we can run to increase the awareness about the environment. The next that we are going to study is the components of the environment. So environment, as I have earlier told you, that environment is the biosphere. Environment, it is the biosphere. It is happen in the biosphere. So it is the combination of lithosphere, atmosphere. So here the structure, the components of environment. Here the first, the structure. As we all know that the atmosphere is the layer of gases around the earth essential for supporting life and protecting oxygen and providing oxygen, regulating temperature and protecting from the harmful solar radiation. So atmosphere, hydrosphere and lithosphere together combine to give this biosphere, which is responsible for causing the or which is responsible for the environment around us. Now let's see the structure of the atmosphere. There are troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere and exosphere. The first, that is the troposphere, it is up to 12 kilometer, containing 75% of the atmospheric mass. Weather phenomena occurs here. In the stratosphere, it is actually from 12 kilometers to 50 kilometers, contains the ozone layer which absorbs harmful ultraviolet rays. The mesosphere, it is actually from the 50 kilometers to 85 kilometers. It is the coolest layer where the meteoroids burn up to entering the Earth's atmosphere. So it is also a protecting nature. The next is the thermosphere, which is from 85 to 600 kilometers, contains ionized gas. It contains the main ionized gas. And the next is the exosphere. It is above the 600 kilometers and it is the outermost layer transiting into the space, or it is near the space area, we can say that. Now, the next that we are going to study is the composition of it. The composition mainly contain nitrogen, oxygen, argon, and carbon dioxide. Nitrogen is 78%, oxygen is 21%, argon 0.93%. It is an inert gas, and carbon dioxide it is 0.04%. It is the key for the photosynthesis, contribution to the greenhouse effect also, and the traces of gases which include water vapor, ozone, and methane. For example, we can say the ozone layer within the stratosphere, it shields our Earth from the harmful UV radiations. Now, the hydrosphere. The next one is the hydrosphere. As we know, hydro means water, so it includes the water cycle. So, in the hydrosphere, first is the distribution of water, then the hydrological cycle, the global water balance. The hydrosphere includes all water on Earth, covering oceans, rivers, lakes, groundwater, and ice. The contribution of water, the ocean contains 97% of water, but it is a salty water. And again, there is a 3% fresh water, that is most of time it is a glacial water, groundwater, or the surface water. It is in 3% of water. Now we are moving towards the global. The next one is the hydrological cycle, or it is also called as the water cycle. The water cycle includes the collection, evaporation, condensation, and precipitation. These are the main four steps in the water cycles. Here in the collection from the sea, from the water bodies, it get evaporated in the UV rays, or in presence of sun. The water get evaporated, and the process is called as the evaporation process. Now the evaporated water get condensed in the form of cloud. Then it is called as the condensation process, and it comes down to the earth in the form of rain. It is called as the precipitation process. So this is all about the four steps in the water cycle. The next is the global water balance. Here in the global water balance, the earth total water remains constant, cycling between the ocean, atmosphere, and the land. For example, the Amazon river system contributes significantly to the hydrological cycle through evaporation and precipitation. Means formation of rain the rain are the precipitations. Now the next that we are going to study is the lithosphere. Litho means the rocks. So here the internal structure of earth and the types of rocks are the main topics that we are going to study in the lithosphere. The lithosphere refers to the rigid outer layer of the earth include the crust and the upper mantle. Now, the internal structure of the earth. This is the internal structure of the earth. It contains crust, mantle, and core, inner and outer mantle, and the core. The crust, it is the outermost layer, solid and thin, with with the continental and the oceanic type. Mantle, beneath the crust, it is the most solid but can flow slowly, responsible for the tectonic movement. And the last is the core. The core is divided into liquid outer core and the solid inner core, mainly composed of iron and nickel. Now, we are the next topic, that is the types of rocks. There are three types of rocks mainly, is the ignition rock, sedimentary rock, and the metamorphic rocks. The ignition rocks form solidified magma. This solidified magma. The sedimentary rocks are the deposition or the compression of the sediments. The metamorphic rocks are formed under the heat and pressure of the pre-existing rocks. Now, for example, mountains like the Himalayas are formed due to the tectonic movement in the lithosphere. The next, that is the biosphere. Here in the biosphere, the boundaries of the biosphere, it includes non-living and living organisms on the earth interacting with the atmosphere, hydrosphere, and lithosphere. Now, the boundaries, vertical limits and horizontal limits. Vertical limits from the deep sea, that is 11 kilometers below the sea level, to the lower atmosphere, about 10 kilometers above the sea level. Now, the horizontal limits extend across the entire Earth's surface from poles to the equatorial, where the life can exist. Now, the biosphere is an integrated system where the organism depend on the abiotic component like air, water, and soil. For example, coral represents a diverse part of biosphere where the marine organism interact with their physical environment. Thank you one and all for patience listening.